What's up, it's a Spherical, and welcome to Kenneth Rice Vampire Detective. This was done by Six of Spades on itch.io, and from what I understand, he is a queer dude of color. And I believe he might have done this for a game jam, don't quote me on that. I'll check back and write in the text just in case I'm an idiot. But, I'm really excited for this. I guess it's supposed to be a silly film noir style dating sim / mystery, possibly. So let's get into it. I'm so excited. The name's Kenneth Rice. Private eye, professional alcoholic, and vampire. In this city, you learn to bite life on the neck before it bites you. I was too late to learn that lesson. It was a balmy summer evening, like any other in this godforsaken city. Trash bags filled with the excess of the people are piled on every corner, and vermin crawl the streets. We also had a serious rat problem. However, I rise above it all. My office is crammed into the 5th floor of this grimy apartment block. On this particular night, I was sitting at my desk, sipping a hard whiskey, staring hard at a real hard Sudoku puzzle. The puzzle was fiendish, but so was I, and I had the rest of eternity to solve it. The life of a vampire detective was easy, but lonely, and hardly ever simple. The late nights suited me just fine. Stalking the streets is a different experience as a bat, or a wolf. If any heavies want to rumble, they're messing with a literal cold-blooded killer. Countless dames and fellas pass through my office door, but they all eventually leave, with their problems solved and their wallets or veins a little lighter. And in the end, a true dick works the beat alone. Suddenly, the phone rang. As I reach for... I'm sorry, I'm trying to play it straight, but this is just so good. I love it so much. The aesthetic is on point. The writing is great. Anyway. As I reached for the receiver, little did I know what was in store for me. Say, am I speaking to a Mr. Rice? The voice on the other end was like champagne... It was like champagne and a honey flute. The voice on the other end was like honey in a champagne flute. Sweet, smooth, and threateningly expensive. Yeah, I am. Who's asking? Delightful. The name's Harley Baker. You're charmed, I'm sure. I have a need for your services. Harley's voice dripped with confidence and suggestion, but I'm too hard-boiled to take the bait. Just yet. This ain't a laundrette, sweetheart. I don't do service, I solve problems. What a brusque way to start this dance. But I can match those steps. I need you to track down a person. A real dirty piece of work. They have something of mine I want returned. And what am I finding for you? Well, I woke up 3 nights ago to find out some precious jewelry had been stolen, right from underneath my nose. It's called the Velvet Suite, a set of 5 stones set into a necklace, and they're just exquisite. So exquisite you'd thrown your own mother off the pier in concrete boots for him. It sounded like blood had already been spilled over this item already. A precious waste. But I couldn't just beat my gums with this dame. Questions had to be asked. I asked her, why don't you come over and talk in person? When did you last see the jewels? Do you know who stole the jewels? Do you want to just do my job for me? When did you last see the jewels? When did you last see your necklace? The Velvet Suite? It has a name, you know. Yes, the Velvet Suite. Where did you last see it? As I say, it was 3 nights ago. I came back from a hard day at work with a hard body on my arm. Where on earth do you work? A nightclub. They're around midnight, if that matters. The hours are rough and the lushes are rougher, but I hold my own just fine. And you took someone home from the nightclub? Well, why not? I've never been one to separate business from pleasure. I was about to write that in my notebook and thought better of it. Strictly professional. But yes, what happened after you returned home? You could probably guess. It was good, though not great. Anyway, I had stepped out of the room to make some coffee, and when I returned, he had gone, and so had the Velvet Suite. Can I get more details about, like, it's dumb to ask her who stole them, but I take it you know who robbed you then? Yes and no. It was most certainly that son of a bitch who I had invited into my boudoir. It's an honor, I'll have you know. I was surprised at the unexpected curse. It seemed this drink of champagne I was talking to was laced with cyanide. Do you have a name for me? He was a Robert, I think. I don't care to learn his surname. Which was not a lot to go on. There were for sure a ton of robbers called Bob in this town. Any distinguishing features? Aside from having a body one would happily eat strawberries off of, he wore a straw boater hat. Him and all his friends, actually. A mighty weird sight in the middle of the night. So he's a swanky sailing type? If so, he sure didn't act like it. Oh, and one other thing. He smelled a lot like bubblegum. Or maybe candy floss? Not that masculine, but I hardly minded at the time. Why don't you come over and talk in person? You sound like you're in a major jam. Why not pass by my office so you can explain in more detail? I asked mostly to help with the info gathering. Nothing speeds an interview up like a little vampiric glamour. But the scummier side of me desperately wanted to get a look at the tall drink of claret on the other end of the phone. As much as I'm dying to have this waltz with you in the flesh, I'm holed up at the moment. Damn. Why not? These are dark times and mean streets, Mr. Rice. Upstanding members of the public can barely trust the concrete they walk on these days. And I feel just naked without my velvet suite. We can schedule a rendezvous and a handsome reward once you've found them. I audibly shrugged. This name is a tough nut to crack. No further questions. It seems we're copacetic here. It was all I was going to get from this late-night call. My body yearned to pound the pavement, to breathe the stagnant evening air. Ah, that's delightful to hear. The velvet suite is worth a pretty penny by itself. But I can reward you that and more if you find it. A pause. In the silence, I hear a faint bustle on the other end of the line. High-energy jazz was playing. One more thing. What can I do you for? Do you have someone at the round midnight you can call about my arrival? Someone who won't have kittens over a detective being there? Oh, sure. Walter, the cloakroom attendant, is a stand-up guy. I'll let him know you're coming. With all the important things said and many more things unsaid, the voice like melted chocolate on the other end of the line went dead. I began to look around the office for information on the round midnight before I put my legs to work. This is the best. My office, where I spent my nights solving mysteries and my days avoiding sunlight. I considered checking my files to see if I had anything useful about this case already. I decided to, check the old research files. There might be some treasure buried in here. I pulled open the drawer. I picked a difficult voice. I'm going to keep going. I'm not a quitter yet. I pulled open the drawer of my filing cabinet and rifled through the documents for anything about the Velvet Suite. No dice, but I did turn up a battered journal given to me by my old master. That would be the vampire who bit me back in the 1920s. Also a detective, it turned out. Guess I was on his turf. He always kept notes on anything and everything, and handed his journal to me once I awoke after being turned. I knew everything in it off by heart, but I flicked through it anyway, glancing at standout passages. Most of those vampire myths you've read about are true. Sunlight is a bad idea, as well as getting impaled. Consider blood to be one of your major food groups now. Bat shape-shifting is a great way to spy on other people and gather information. You'll hate noisy places, though. The wolf's sense of smell is incredible, but it's hard to gracefully maintain this form. You will unnerve most humans. Assuming the form of fog is an impressive trick. Mortals will hallucinate if caught in your glamour. Avoid windy days. I put the journal back. I recalled my first experiences with shape-shifting, and my expression hardened like dog shit in the sun. My first 20 years of being a vampire was a haze of vague forms, bloodlust, and heavy drinking. I've since only gotten the first two under control. Let's look up the round midnight. I walked to my grand bookcase of tomes and files. I had curated it for size, but it's the kind of work that would take a lifetime. A mortal's lifetime, at least. I pulled the city maps and a collection of bar reviews from the local rag and hunted for any mention of the round midnight. the news clipping dished the dirt. The Round Midnight was a basement speakeasy and jazz bar. Obviously, there's no need to be secretive about drinking in the 2010s, but some people like to keep up traditions. Plus, dressing like you've fallen out of time was unusually popular. Made it easy for me to blend in when I was on the case. As such, the entrance to the bar wasn't obvious. However, in its more popular days, velvet rope and a queue like an abattoir factory gave the game away. I noted the location down in my notebook. Let's hit the road. It was time to stop brooding indoors and do what I did best, getting the job done. This is so cool. It's an old map. That's so neat. I love the aesthetic of all of this. It's so cool. Like, the dev really went in on this, and I really appreciate that. I rounded the corner to where the Round Midnight was located. The streets were hopping, but quiet, everyone pushing ahead with their heads hung low. The dazzle of the neon lights will leave you with stars in your eyes and your wallet empty, and no one wanted to be played for a sucker that night. As I had guessed, the entrance to the Round Midnight would have been easy to miss if not for the bouncer standing outside. She was a brunette, and brunettes always mean trouble. Let's talk. Brunettes mean trouble, but in this town so do redheads, blondes, and mermaid ombre dye jobs. I gritted my teeth and made my way up to her. Oh, she's cute. Hey. Good evening. Are you on the guest list? Her tone was dry and devoid of questioning, dry like a blotto sent to a convent. Suddenly, my throat felt the same. Maybe. One of the staff knows I'm coming tonight. His name was, Wilbur? If you ain't on the list, you ain't getting in. Them's the breaks. She didn't look angry, just bored, confident, and like someone who'd bum-rushed more fellas than decks of cigs I've smoked. Fine. Can you at least tell me if you've seen this broad, Harley, around? Voice like molasses, likes big jewels and bigger men? You would have eyeballed her 3 days or so ago. Started the job here last night. I ain't seen your girlfriend. No, that's not what Unless you're on the list, we're done here. I slinked off, cursing. No one plays me for a sucker and gets away with it. Let's look for a way in. I shift my eyes around the block, trying to glum a way in besides the front door. The speakeasy was in the basement, so I would have serious trouble going through a window and making my way down. I looked for a vent or grill in the pavement, but no dice there either. However, there was an alleyway off to the side of the building. I pondered if another way in was hidden in its shadows. Let's shapeshift on. I considered if taking another form would give me the edge in this pickle. Finding a spot out of the way, I turned into... Fog is the least conspicuous? The wind was dead like a morgue, but the air stayed warm and thick. Melting into fog was as easy as exhaling. I hard-boiled my asthma, engulfed the bouncer, and I considered what glamour I could show her to make your dust out. I tried a variety of standard spook tactics to shake her up a little, but she stayed firm, like sap stuck in wet cement. Doing this right would take some tactics. This track had turned out to be a bust. I let my mist thin, gathered myself again a small distance away, and went back to the drawing board. Then let's shapeshift into a bat? Maybe? I let the flittering darkness take hold and ascended into the twilight. Oh, unless I'm supposed to take the form of a wolf and then unsettle her? But I don't... Would she be bothered by a wolf? I don't even know. Even from this higher angle, the speakeasy doors was still, unsurprisingly, firmly closed. Damn. I settled into an eave of the building and observed the bouncer for a while. She looked determined and firm, tougher than an overdone steak at an all-night diner. Still, she looked just a little bit wary, like there was something she really would rather avoid on a grim night like this. It looked like this info well had just run dry, so I descended and reverted to human form to plan my next move. I guess I do need to turn into a wolf. As I crouched into a low stance and felt the hair form on my face, I hesitated. In this world of good cop, bad cop, putting the frighteners on someone has a great way to fall to the wrong side. I didn't want to use fangs if a good finagle would do just as well. And I have always had a bit of performance anxiety when taking on the wolf form in an open space. It ain't dignified. I reverted to my human form and thought of another plan. Okay. So what am I supposed to do? An alleyway. What? Panic. Oh, I'm supposed to go to the alley. I slipped down the side road of around midnight into an alley. It was hopping with people, like rats on a discarded pepperoni pizza. I could tell this was where the round midnight patrons went to grab a smoke. If this was still the 20s, they'd be puffing like chimneys in the club itself. How times change. There's a gang of men squatting around. They're all in straw boater hats and drowned in a thick haze of smoke. I caught the smoke scent, like a candy store on fire. E-cigarettes, for sure. Oh, that's why he smells like candy. Okay. Do you just want to walk right up to the... Let's look around first. An alley is an alley, both then and now. The street was narrow. Narrow like the line between good and evil in this city. There didn't seem to be a clean way into this speakeasy on this side either. Are they sealed down there? I guess we could approach the Stroboter gang. Are they gonna beat me up? Is there a way I can save? Let's save. Save? Save. Sure. My detective instincts kicked in. Harley, my mysterious client, said our missing man wore a hat just like these felucas. If anyone was gonna give me a lead, it would be these guys. Hey. Gentlemen. Yo, man, what do you want? The kid exhaled a cloud into my face, and my eyes watered. He would have been sweet to look at, but the sugary haze in the air turned my attitude bitter. I'm looking for someone. He's likely one of you guys. Oh, you got business with the West Egg crew? We don't answer to just nobody. West Egg? As in the Great Gatsby? That explains the hats. It definitely didn't explain the odd way this kid talked, like he tried to put on the Ritz and be from the streets all at once. Yeah, you got it. Who are you looking for? All I know is that he's called Robert, and he's a hot ticket item with the ankle around here. Yeah, I don't know about ankles or anything, but old Robbie is definitely a member of the West Egg. Sure, he's here. The kid chuckled like he should be holding a fan in one hand instead of a vaporizer. Nah, the old boy always insisted on eating before a night out. But as I always say, eating is cheating. He laughed again and blew another ring of smoke. I tipped my hat and walked away without a word more. There's only one good eatery around here. I knew exactly where he'd be. Okay, so I guess I don't need to, shapeshift. Guess I need to just find him. Diner. The Ace's Wild Diner. The style was a slightly inaccurate throwback to the 50s, with a checkerboard floor and red vinyl seating. It wasn't really my style, but they served the best damn rack of ribs in town. Though we're nowhere near the United States, this type of burger joint has really taken off here. Wait, they're not? Where are they? Wait, where are they? I had pictured this being in, like, New York. Did I miss something? Anyway. I'm gonna keep playing like it's in New York. 3 dogs waited patiently outside the diner, tied to a bicycle rack. They looked bored. The perp I was searching for was definitely in here. I could feel it in my gut, like last night's dinner. However, everyone inside had taken their hats off. My biggest clue was a bust. I'd have to think of another way to sniff him out. I can shapeshift into a wolf and talk to the dogs? I eyed up the leashed dogs and had a brainwave. If I played my cards right, I could blend in as a wolf much better than as a nosy stranger. I felt the lupine instincts inside me float lightly to the surface as I padded silently towards the dogs. They eyed me warily at first, but a fierce vampiric glare let them know I was the alpha around here. Then I let my pose soften. I tried to wag my tail and pant a little, give the impression that I was actually a dog. It was humiliating. Once I was sure no one would suspect anything, I crept my way up to the diner doors, nudged them open a little, and stuck my head in. The patrons closest to the door glanced at me, then went back to their meals. I sniffed the air. Among the scent of grease, sweat, and grilling meat was an artificial stench of bubblegum. Oh yeah, because the wolf has a good sense of smell. Gotcha. The smell was coming from a table near the window. A handsome fellow was chowing down on a burger with total disregard for the ketchup getting on his shirt. This had to be my man. I backed out of the diner, reverted back into human form, and prepared to give him the business. Let's look around first. In the diner's window, there were 2 signs. No dogs and no hats. Reasonable enough rules. It explained why I couldn't see anyone wearing that blasted straw burger inside. And true to the other sign, there were a few dogs chained out. Okay. Otherwise, you're dead. Let's confront the target. Oh. I should have saved. Shit. I burst into the diner. My stare was cold as the milkshakes being quietly sipped by the diner's patrons. I walked up to the table of my mark. Even without him wearing his hat, I could pick him out by the stronger scent of bubblegum. Oh, hey. Oh, no, everyone's cute. His broad chest trembled at my approach. I could hear his heart rate quicken, and I could immediately see why Harley had taken him home. I've been looking for you. I've a dame with a voice like sin and a pocket full of simoleons with a price on your head, so you better start talking. I slammed my palm on his table and leant in close. I could see the beads of sweat on his forehead. Before things get ugly. I'm gonna make you British. 'Cause, look at that beautiful luscious hair. Oh, Christ, I don't know nothing about no dame. He paused. I could almost hear the gears in his skull whirring. Is this about Holly? Bingo. So start squealing. Where's the velvet sweet? The what? The necklace you stole. Where is it? His expression was one of genuine confusion, and mine was quickly becoming one of genuine frustration. Whoa, I didn't steal no necklace. Holly wore a really pretty one, sure, but I didn't take it, I swear. I hesitated. As I stared into this poor sap's eyes, it didn't look like he was lying. Seriously, just go to the round midnight and ask. Holly should be working there tonight. This was news to me. Harley had told me on the phone she was locked up at home. I needed more info. Can you get me in? There's a bouncer outside, and she's tougher than a bag of nickels. Oh, that's right, Ruby's working there now. I can't help you out. We may know each other, but she always plays by the books. She's afraid of pretty much nothing too well, except for rabbits. I always teased her about that when we were... I tuned out Robert's yammering and latched onto this new piece of info. She's afraid of rabbits, eh? Could work with that. But bunnies are so cute. I mean, everybody's got their different fears. I left the table while Robert was still talking. The owner of the diner glared at me for still wearing my hat inside his establishment. The only thing I was hungry for was justice. Okay, so let's go back to the club. Let's shapeshift into a fog and show her some... My only hunch to go on was what Robert had told me in the diner. Could such a put-together dame really get spooked by a rabbit? Not wanting to go in all guns blazing, I showed her a vision of a small, fluffy bunny, stomping around at her feet. She is out of there! She is fucking gone! The effect was immediate. Ruby stiffened, went white as a sheet, and bolted off down the building's alleyway. The job done, I smugly transformed back into a human, walked up to the now unguarded speakeasy door, and gave it a sharp knock. The man who entered the door was small, bespectacled, and had a warm, gentle vibe that clashed with the dark doorway he stood in. Without even having to ask his name, I could guess that this was Walter, the cloakroom attendant. He's cute! Oh, I like him. He's cute. Good evening, sir. If you want to come in, please speak to the bouncer. She, had to go run an errand. I'm Kenneth Rice. You should have been told to expect me. Yes, of course. Harley did tell me you were attending. Are you a fan? No, I'm just a man fulfilling a purpose. Very well. Come right on in. The club was what I would have expected. Reminiscent of the smoky, heady jazz clubs of old. But cleaner, brighter, and a little more cheerful. A semicircular bar shielded the singular waistcoated bartender from the public's demands for more booze. At the back there was a stage for live music. A jazz trio were playing, a pianist, a drummer, and a double bass player. Their set was reminiscent of some Duke Ellington-style dinner jazz, but a little more noodly and experimental. Robert said that Harley was here, but running my eyes over the crowd, no one seemed to fit the bill. Keeping an eye out for her, I took a stool at the bar and dipped the bill in the deepest whiskey the bartender had going. As I sipped, the jazzmen finished their set to restrained but appreciative applause. And then he stepped on stage. "Hey, Harley!" He entered the stage legs first, games that could cross oceans and crush the skulls of lushes that crossed his path. He looked as if he had been poured into the breathtakingly unique suit he wore, cut in a way that revealed both every inch and nothing at all. Well, but he has the necklace. So is this Harley? Or is this the person that stole the necklace? That's a good question. Though my heart hadn't beat for decades, it threatened to rip out of my chest then and there. I could hear the heartbeats of the entire club throb in unison, steaming hot blood coursing like a flood. I involuntarily licked my lips. I barely even noticed he proudly wore the velvet suite around his neck before he began to sing. After the performance, I rushed over to the stage, partially to ask why on earth he had the velvet suite, but entirely to find out who this dish was. He leant on the side of the piano, holding a martini in his hand as if it had always been there. Suddenly, this was the hardest case I had ever taken. "I'm gonna cut right to the chase. What's a fella like you doing with that necklace?" "I've already told you, Mr. Rice. It's called the Velvet Suite." "You could have knocked me for 6. How could he have known?" And then I recognized his voice. The pieces of the puzzle had all fallen into place. "Harley Baker?" "The one and the same. It's wonderful to finally meet you." I was about to respond in kind, but then my duty as a detective took over. "If you hadn't lost the Velvet Suite at all, why the hell did you make that phone call?" There was a pause as Harley sipped his drink and eyed me up and down. I suddenly felt like turning into fog and fleeing. "I wanted to see if the rumors were true. A detective straight out of the mystery novels who could solve any case. I've always been a fan of those chiseled, hard-boiled types, and when I heard someone say he was a total vamp as well..." I was about to interrupt and say he had the wrong definition of vamp, but then he wasn't entirely incorrect. I don't take kindly to being set on a wild goose chase, even if I'm chasing after a pair of getaway sticks like yours. I did say there would be a reward for finding the Velvet Suite, and I always make good on my promises. He clapped his hands twice, and the bartender appeared with another drink. It looked less like Harley worked here and more like he ran the joint. Harley plucked the drink out of the bartender's hand and offered it to me. I silently took it. "Your night is on me. I'm about to start my second set. You'll listen, won't you?" I stayed with Harley until the dawn. Thank you for playing Kenneth Bryce Vampire Detective! Okay, character artwork by Lindy Stewart. I will put that Patreon link in the description. Script coding and photoshopping by Nathan Blades. Game music by Thomas Collins and Kevin MacLeod. Sound effects from freesound.org. It was made in Ren'P. Ren'P.org. That was awesome! Oh, I fucking loved that. Okay, so it was a lot shorter than I hoped it would be. I want, like, a full-length game of this thing. I want, like, several hours playtime, fucking full exploration. I want to turn this shit into a Nancy Drew game. Anyway, I loved that. I loved everything about that. The writing was charming, the aesthetics were on point, the character art was great and very unique. I loved it. Thank you so much for Six of Spades for mentioning this to me. He came to me on Reddit and let me know that he makes visual novels, so keep an eye out for more stuff of his. I'm going to be doing more stuff, especially now that I've seen that he has some bomb-ass stuff. But, thank you guys so much for watching and for checking me out. I will put all of the dev contact information that I can find in the comments, as well as that Patreon link. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Later!